Welcome to the XY Advisor podcast. To join a global community of financial advisors sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice, head to xyadvisor.com. G'day, Clayton here from XY Advisor. Julian, mate, you've made the trek in to Customs House, Sydney, Australia. Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me, Clayton. Assuming, of course, that is your real name.
So I'm going through the podcast the other day because we've done a few hundred. Midwinter just happens to be the first sponsor.
I noticed that. Yes, I also remember that as well.
The first 15 episodes.
That's when I had to Google you. Yeah. I remember.
And then at that stage, you guys were doing pretty well, but still on the up and up.
Oh, we were edgy.
And now you've got your exit, mate. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much.
To Bravura.
Oh, thank you very much, Bravura. Yes.
That is fantastic, mate. That is. I just wanted to say congratulations.
Oh, you're very kind. You're excited. You're more excited than I am, actually.
In terms of the fact that you've been, you've hidden yourself away from the public eye since then, and you've gone into meditative mode.
Well, I also didn't want to die of the Wuhan flu.
Well, that's a very good point.
I had my hands tied behind my back.
Fair enough. What was it like? What was it like getting to? Because it was 15, 20 years of work.
It was 16 years of my life, actually.
Yeah, that's big, man.
It's not an inconsiderable amount of time.
No.
Why am I deflecting the question? I don't know.
No, it's but it is. I like to see it for two reasons. You're a good bloke, and I'm glad that you've achieved
third party verification of waste.
Yes, but
tell all your friends.
But also, and probably more importantly, it tells me, or it gives me a good and positive sign. That financial advice in this country is not an industry that's getting ignored. No. And we're getting investment.
Yep.
So here's the thing. When it comes to these huge companies like CBA and AMP, right?
Yep.
There are $500 million in the hole in trying to build goals-based advice programs and things like that.
Well, they would be. Well, yes. They may be. I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of them.
Well, reportedly, right? And so, and then if you think about BT spent over $1 billion investing into Panorama. So you've got $1.5 billion there of investment into financial advice. Unfortunately, some of that got nowhere, and then we got a platform. Panorama is the fastest growing platform in the market, I believe, and I'm sure it's great. But at the end of the day, it's $1.5 billion. And so, what's going on with that? Why is there so much money going into financial advice and yet we're not seeing a lot of genuine improvement?
There's a lot of reasons for that. I'm wondering how many I can actually tell you. Can I tell you the truth or not? I might hint at the truth.
Please.
Look, financial advice is very complex. That's the crux of it. And the thing is, people are trying to put processes around workflows that it's like you're trying to tell Leonardo da Vinci to paint a landscape. It's not paint by colours. You've got to go and talk to every single client, and every single client is a unique tapestry. It's got its own palette, its own shades, its own scenic view, and one's got everyone's so different as well. And it's not. It's just. I remember being at university, and you do a group assignment, and it was coincidentally with my two business partners we've been following around each other for over 3 decades, but we went in there and we got maybe. We crawled home with maybe 72%, and we think, my God, we're geniuses. We went down to the UWA TAV, Bob Hawke style, and we celebrated, and we let everyone know that we were geniuses. Now, we weren't geniuses, but you pulled 72% off in a financial plan, and you're going straight to jail. That's a compliance risk. If you get 72% of a SOA right, that is 100% wrong. It has to be right. You can't miss out a bit. You've got to do the client's best interests. And that's hard. And you've got to, and so I find that it's ridiculously hard. And sitting down to a financial plan, the answer to your question is sit down to a financial plan. And even a simple one, you get bogged down in technicalities and everything's got yeah, but this, yeah, but that. And it's that little yeah, but that kills you. 98% of it's easy. But then you've got allocated pension from a product provider you've never heard of, or you've got some AXA product which has got capital guarantees in it. How do you do that? And so a lot of the models people use are too simplistic to be useful, and the other ones are too complex to be useful. And it's hard to get the sweet spot. And once you get that sweet spot, it's repeat until rich. But that sweet spot, you need practitioners. And it's hard to find people who've written SOA that know how to code. That's very difficult. Those people are rare as hen's teeth. And so when you get those people, you hold on to them. And we always historically had a lot of those people. Failed financial planners. Like myself.
Good coders.
Yeah. No, know their way around an SOA.
That's a really good answer.
Oh,
the way that I've summarized it in the past is tech, especially as soon as you involve tech into the process, your tech by its nature is rather static. It takes a long time to write code. It takes a long time. And yet you're dealing in a dynamic environment, which is regulatory in nature, and things can change at the turn of a dime.
Yep. So you got two ways of doing software. You got waterfall and agile, roughly.
Yes.
So waterfall, you're given a spec document at the start, and you say go and build that, and nothing changes, right? And what are the chances of finding no changes along that journey? 0%. So that's hard to work. And the other one's agile, where you just get thrown everything along the way. And, when has anything ever like that ever worked out? And so these two processes are trying to recreate the human way of designing and specifying what the software should be, and then going and developing it. But that's a huge eternal struggle. And, it is, and you think, how did the Americans get to the moon? Because all this computer methodology and development cycles, the software development life cycle came from the NASA project. And they did it without a single computer. And they got to the moon first time. And it's so hard for people to get a CRM right. How did they do that in 1969? It's one of the most amazing possible, one of the most amazing feats done by humanity. And so, that's a problem. And so you have this bureaucracy in organizations, especially large ones, and the bureaucracy can stifle you. And you've got the latency, where you go in and you say, okay, we're making this change to the software. What do you want here? And they've got to go back to the business and find out. And the business has got to, they don't even know what you're talking about. So then you've got to tell them. And then you've got this huge latency issue where it takes so long for information to transfer between different departments to get back to the developer, who can then do something about it. And there's your $1.5 billion right there.
Yeah. Genuinely, is it a problem that, and you've been trying to do this, you've been trying to solve all that complexity for 15 years, right?
Yep.
Do you think financial planning, as it stands in this country, I believe, and I interviewed Ben Martian not that long ago, and he was saying that there's 7 or 8 different regulatory and legal frameworks that financial planning belongs to. And he said at its core, they're so disjointed that by abiding by all the rules, you actually conflict with others.
Well, look, I'm sure that'll happen. There's no grand unifying. So in physics, they're trying to get a grand unifying theory of everything.
Theory of everything.
Yeah. There is no such thing.
Yes.
I mean, estate planning has got nothing to do with hex.
Yep.
Right. And so they don't know about each other, different objects, different database shapes. And the other thing is, there's so many things, but what really grinds my gears is you use the software and you type in superbalance. Right? How many times you type in superbalance into software? And then you're doing this, and then you load up the object, type in superbalance again. Yeah, but I just typed it in. But this is a different superbalance. This is one for the non-committed allocated pension back in, and then you type it and go, okay, I'll do that. And then you got to do, your income and assets test and suddenly type in your superbalance. You think, hang on a second, something's wrong here. And so what's happened is someone's gone along and they've started off with one bit of software and put 2 bits onto it, like lipstick on a pig, and then try and integrate it.
Yes. And
it never works out. They're all scratching their heads. What you want to do is you want to start, we always talk about integration, but there's a lot to be said for forward-thinking ahead design and just building it beautifily from the start and elegantly.
Yeah.
And like there was this Steve Wozniak. It was Steve Wozniak who built the Apple II, the circuit board. Now he was a Polish immigrant, and he was obsessive compulsive about transistors, and like he had no money, the poor bloke. And so Steve Jobs said, "Go and build the circuit board for the what's everyone getting by? Apple II, sorry, not Commodore." And he didn't know about he didn't know about the budgetary constraints and all the rest of it. So he assumed they had no money and built this masterful design of a chipset, like the main motherboard. And you go into people's offices and they have it's framed, the blueprint, right? And this guy built it beautifully from the start. If the foundation's beautiful, you can do all sorts of amazing things. And so I just don't think, I think there's a lot of legacy issues with financial planning software, and the industry's been struggling with that since day dot. And it's not easy. It really isn't easy. And the other thing is, financial advisors all think, and I love financial advisors, don't get me wrong, and this is a very positive comment towards them, but they think all their unique practices are the way everything should be done. And they can't see beyond, God bless their souls, can't see beyond their own practice to think there's another guy out there in Toowoomba or some lady up in somewhere in Queensland doing something completely different. And so you've got to get all their different business models and unique workflows and their different approved lists and all the different things they use and give it to them and then give it to the other person. But they're completely different. And so you have to configure and that is hard.
And it does sound hard. And I guess and why I've invited you on today is because it seems overly difficult, right?
Yep.
If I think about what the regulation is trying to achieve, it's to stop the worst financial planners who have the worst in mind.
Right. Yep. I often said, if you're a good bloke or a good girl and you love your clients, don't worry about the law. Well, if you do the best thing by your clients all the time, you will get to a good result.
Yes, and so I think that's kind of where Phasia's came in, and it's there. I think the goal of it was to say, look, we understand that there's a lot that's incorrect or conflicting in advice.
I don't remember reading that bit, but okay.
But I interviewed Stephen, and he was kind of like, the essence of Phasia is if you're doing an ethical thing, you'll be okay.
So that's good. Oh, I'm happy to know that. I should listen to more to him.
But it's true because I think there's but let's view it from a first principles view, right?
First principles.
Let's say, why is there complexity in a financial plan in the first place? Well,
human life.
Well, yes and no. Hear me out. So the complexity, I don't believe, is in the client's life. Because let's say if there was no rules and regulations and I had the most complicated client in front of me, give me a year, I can come up with some.
Are you doing things on a yearly basis or a monthly basis? Are there investment patterns? Have you got the date or the time?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, give me a long period of time, and I can come up with something that they're comfortable with, that we can achieve over the course of a long period of time. Yep. Also, that we're going to pivot over time, right? It's not that we're not going to...
You're building a financial plan for them, eh?
Yes.
Okay, right.
Okay, let's say that there's no rules and regulations, right? And so someone walks into my door, even if they're very complicated, we can work together and come up with a good financial plan for them.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so it's not the complexity in the client, I believe, that creates complexity in the plan. The complexity in the plan, I believe, comes from the complexity of the rules and regulations that surround what's required in the plan.
Yep.
Now, why is there complexities in the rules and regulations in the plan? It's because we've had things like Storm Financial. It's because we've had huge, which cost billions of dollars to the clients, right? And so the powers that be said, we can't allow this to happen again. I get that. I fully agree to that.
Yep.
Now, there's two ways.
But yet we're still having problems, aren't we?
Well, there's two ways that you can approach this. You can say, we're going to let the products do whatever they want, and then we're just going to stick rules and regulations in around those products so that they can't do what the products were designed to do.
Yep.
Okay, so then you're left with a financial planner who has the ability to do something, but it's now illegal. Or it breaks rules and regulations because the product's been designed to achieve something.
Yeah, well, they'll just move on to the next product that hasn't been assessed by ASIC or the regulatory.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is the cat and mouse game that we are in, and we've been playing a long time. Create a product, advisors use product, ASIC creates a reason why that product can't exist. Jump along to the next product, and it's going to continue until we have this cacophony, and that's the complexities in the plan.
Yeah, well, that is a never-ending story. Just when you fix up the last problem, there'll be some new derivative or some new platform that that could be used and misused in ways we've never even thought of.
Yes. Yeah. So the problem is foreseeably never going to finish.
No, I'll never finish.
Right. So I'm not convinced that's a good way to do things. I'm not convinced that open product features mixed with regulation to stop using the product as intended is the solution.
Yep.
I see a solution in simplifying what a product can and can't do. That now solves the problem, right? So we've done this already. This is not a new...
You've still got issues like, are you doing things in client's best interest?
Wait.
That's got nothing to do with...
No, I know. But let's even get to client's best interest in a second, right? So So where did client's best interest come from? Well, it came from
the fiduciary's response, hanging your shingle. Actually, I don't know where it came from. Why don't you tell us where it came from?
Okay, it came out of FOFA, right? Right.
FOFA.
Yes, it came out of FOFA, right? So this legislation was created because they said, financial advisors, you're not doing the things in the best interest of your client, so we're gonna make you do it. Well, what happened in FOFA? What created this framework? Well, that was
the reasonable basis framework.
Yes, but also what happened in the market? Well, we had Storm. And so they said, okay, this is our way to make sure that Storm never happens again. Okay, this is going to keep happening. Let's stop with all this. Let's create rules and regulations around what products can do.
Yep.
And then it never gets to be a problem because nothing gets into the hands of advisors, which can break the law. At that stage, you can turn down the rules and regulations that you have to fit within. And here's a perfect example. A part of the Storm problem was investment commissions and superannuation commissions,
and
right?
Software.
Wait, yes. Yeah. So turning down commissions on investment products and superannuation products created a very simpler environment. However, the rules and regulations never took their foot off the gas. They still exist as if we live in a world where you can receive...
Well, the thing... Okay, so the main issue with... Well, not the main issue. There were so many issues with Storm, and if you go onto AussieStockForums.com, you could go deep down the rabbit hole on a day-by-day blow onto the whole cacophony. I wouldn't say it's a beautiful story. It's a terrible story, but... There wasn't much ASIC could do from memory because
that's right.
Because the
rules and regulations.
The issue with Storm is they didn't break. ASIC can't go into a business and say we demand to look at your business model and we will predict whether it's a bad business model. It's got nothing to do with ASIC. You're allowed to have a bad business model, but you're going to go broke.
I fully agree to that. What I'm saying is they solved the problem by removing the commissions that are attached to investment and superannuation products.
Yep.
Right. So I thought I'm like, that's a great way. So rather than chasing your tail, trying to stop this from happening, just remove it from the product feature set.
And remove rights away from consumers and not let them.
Sure. Yeah. But we live in a world where we don't have unending rights, right? We don't live in a completely capitalist society.
I would hope we have some liberty.
We do have some liberty. I'm not saying remove all superannuation products. I'm saying we should at least look at the concept of removing product features, which would save tech companies like yours on trying to figure out how on earth an advisor can recommend something with.
So you're saying
in a framework that makes it very difficult to recommend.
So you're saying changing all the rules and starting from scratch will save us money.
Yes, I actually am.
Well.
I think the cacophony that we are in.
Look, there's too many variables for me to adequately predict anything in this scenario. But I've really enjoyed talking about it.
Fair enough.
No, I understand. Look, I've been talking to a few compliance people around town. I've been over the last few weeks actually.
Okay.
I've been trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm aware of a number of remediation projects going on in some of the larger companies around town, and some of the numbers I'm hearing are astronomical. Some of the murmurings I've been hearing quite really interesting. Some interesting conversations going around saying, "Why don't we just get rid of compliance completely? What has compliance done for us? We've just gone to Royal Commission. Was it a compliance failure or an advice failure?"
I get what you're saying.
And why not just say, okay, and this is not me, by the way, viewers. This is not something I would ever put forward. But some of the murmurings I'm hearing say, well, let's not pay the compliance people. Let's just save that money for the remediation down the track.
Yeah,
so that's where some of the feelings and emotions are at the moment because of the hell that they've been going through. and some of the checks they're writing out.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think the industry to do the best out of financial planning over the last decade has been the Big Four. That's the industry to be in.
Well, I used to work at one of the Big Four, and I was very, very worried, viewers, when I was sitting there in that Big Four in the research department. There's only the two of us. I was quant, and my workmate was qual. Sometimes a bit more qual, and he was a bit more quant. And if he was having a day off, I was qual and quant. And it was very stressful. Going from qual to quant. Yeah. And I'm sitting there watching the growth of this compliance team. And I thought we were a very productive team of two in research. But I think, when your compliance team is bigger than your research team, your portfolio administration team, and your portfolio management team, and then compliance is taking up 2 floors and the rest of it is going to take up 1, I think you might have, what's going on here?
No, it's the tail wagging the dog.
Yes.
And this is why I think it needs to be, I think product features, I think restriction on product features rather than restrictions on advice is a far, far better way to approach it.
I've had a few chats with the regulator in my time, and the impression I get, let's say, God forbid, Clayton, I'd never do this, but let's say I went out and shot someone.
Yeah, let's assume you won't.
I would. It's not my nature, viewers. I never would. But I would want the best legal representation. I'd go and see the finest lawyer in town.
Sure.
And you think, I would walk into my raconteur lawyer's office. I'd say, listen to me.
I love how you've already given him a personality.
I want the best advice money can buy because I'm in a bit of trouble. I need some help. And I'll go through my story of my tale of woe of how nothing happened. And those eyewitnesses are wrong. And I'd say, and he'll listen to me. I say, no, you're not listening hard enough. We're going through this again.
Right.
And I'll get him, I'll make him get, and her, the best qualified lawyer, viewers, regardless of gender. And I would say, we're going through this again. I want to get all your law crime books out, and we're doing it again. And we're going to go do role plays, and we say, what about that? What about this? Right? And we'll be there at midnight because I want the best advice from that.
Yes.
Right? That's what a financial planner should do. That's what ASIC think of financial planner. You should go and see a financial planner, and they should sit there for, I
understand.
They want a professional to sit there and give them advocate advice for advice.
Right.
For clients. And so how do you do that on technology?
Yeah.
And so that's
a really good point.
Fundamental. I mean, people talk about machine learning and AI and the rest of it, but artificial intelligence at the moment, it's got it can do whatever a dog can do intelligently. Now, I'm not going to. I'm up there.
You mean it can sit?
What you can do, go fetch, or it can, give me the bottle of water. Right? Now, I'm not taking Lassie down to Downing Street Court, am I? I'll be taking. Lassie's not a QC, right? So that's where we're at.
There's some QC out there called Lassie. He's like,
well, it could be, and I'm a big fan of collies, but call me old fashioned if you want. Okay, no, I don't mind. Call me old fashioned if you want, but you don't. I want a human.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
So the point I'm making is, how do you industrialize that? And so
that's a very good question.
So,
it's a very good question.
So you're talking about products. I'll talk about strategies.
Okay.
Yeah. And so.
I agree. Yeah. I fully agree.
Well, thank you for that. I'm very happy to hear that.
The difference is between a lawyer and a financial planner is, yes, I agree that the services provided by a financial planner should equal that of a lawyer.
Yep. That may or may not be the case, depending on what the client wants.
There are a couple of variables that are different to the case, the theoretical case that we experienced just here. Viewers. One of those is the time-sensitive nature of it, right? In regards to financial advice, there's only a small amount of times, and it's usually either the death of a family or the death of yourself, where something is critical. Outside of that, 99% of advice, it's not time critical. And so we can put in that time and effort to achieve that level of input over the course of a much longer period of time.
Absolutely.
Now, so with that in mind, I have no doubt that advisors can provide those levels of strategies.
They can, but it's how do you industrialize it in software?
Well, okay, so I think first and foremost, do we need to industrialize beyond 100, 150 clients per advisor, right? And if that's the case, right, so say something like...
yes.
Well, yeah, okay. So let's say a map my plan scenario where there's no advisor and they're handling thousands of pieces of general advice, but advice. And so the scalability isn't an issue. I don't think the time allocation is the issue. Again, the huge issue here is the static solution, which is tech, in a dynamic environment, which is regulation, not fitting together. And I think the tech is trying to solve a problem that can't be solved. It can't be solved one-on-one without industrialization.
Oh, it'll be solved eventually.
Okay, how?
Some smart, clever cookie will figure it out.
You think a tech solution is going to solve it?
Never bet against the ingenuity of humanity. Never. They got us to the moon in 69, remember that? Without
July
us. 21.
Well, in Australia, 21.
Well, we're in Australia. Some very valuable contributions here.
You think?
Eventually, yeah. Yeah. Look, I've been amazed at some of the tech coming out. It's, and no technology should be significantly distinguishable from magic. And that's you look at some. Look, I've got if you told me a few years ago I'd have this in my pocket, a phone. I'm holding a phone, viewers. It's got GPS location and I can contact any person on the planet with this thing.
Yeah. From
anywhere.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It has any answer to any question that's ever been asked.
And if you don't think that's great, so they'll figure it out. We've got a long way to go.
Yeah, a long way to go. And I still think that there's an easier solution by tailoring, by there being more control over the products, which we've seen work from FOFA and reduction of commissions from investments and superannuation. It achieves so much.
Even if you're living in a world with savings plans, retirement bonds, and some annuities, you'll be hard pressed to just get that simple three-dimensional world.
Yeah. I mean, you've looked at the complexities more than I have. It sounds like I'm probably being a little bit academic about it.
Oh, well, you need to start somewhere. Journey of 1,000 steps starts with one. 1,000 miles starts with 1 steps, etc.
Well, okay, so we've spoken about the problems. What do you see as the next 5 years in financial planning?
Oh, I think a lot of it will be in financial plan. Well, specifically tech. I think we're going to go for scale now.
Really?
Yeah, I think the great...
Because that's the opposite of what advisors are saying.
Oh, no. A financial planner's greatest comparative advantage is scale.
You think so?
100%.
Because then you're just playing in the same field as a robotech, for example.
No. So my lawyer, right? The old wise one up Phillip Street. Look, he got me off, but honestly, he's getting a bit old. Getting old, getting grey, ripped off another page, sold in second hand. That's how it goes when you're playing in a band. But it's just one of them. You go on Phillip Street, and you've got all the, and they're all like little, they're like owls in cuckoo clocks.
Yes.
Right? But there's only one of them. And, and they do quite well, but they charge on hourly rates. Mm-hmm. There's only one of them. Oh. And have you ever heard of a billionaire lawyer?
Never.
Billionaire doctor?
Never.
Well, have you heard of billionaire tech?
Yes.
Yeah, why? Why tech guys, not lawyers and doctors? What's
scalability?
Yes. And so the thing is, I've got my QC, right? He's got to listen to my stupid story how I didn't kill anyone. And I kept him there till midnight, remember?
Yes.
And it went on for 3 days.
Yes.
I've trapped up all of his time, right? Now, you go to Mark Zuckerberg, he types in a bit of code, he does Control-C, Control-V, 1,000 million times. Type once, code one, I can't remember, type once, code many. And so... He's got scale because he does one bit of work and sells it 1 trillion times, whereas the doctor and lawyer can only do it once.
Right.
And so with an advisor,
yes,
you want to talk to as many clients as you want and just scale the advice as possible because that's your profit.
Sure, but
that's what I mean.
Yeah. But advisors get into this work to bring value to people's lives and to bring value to themselves. So it's not entirely just about.
I'm assuming a profit maximizing individual.
But you're assuming a lot of rationality. Which,
I am. Yeah, I'm assuming rational.
Yes. As we know, no one. Well, very rarely do people operate in a fully rational.
You've got to hang your hat on something.
Yeah.
I'll hang my hat on rationality and logic any day of the week, viewers. Call me old-fashioned if you want. I don't mind.
I would just say that I think that's a simplistic way to look at it.
It's a very simplistic but correct way to look at it.
Well, I think a lot of advisors get into advice because they enjoy it.
Of course, but They're not charities. And you try telling your national manager that I don't know. I just think there's profit isn't a dirty word.
No, of course not.
See, I got the moral high ground there. No need to apologise.
And it's a very good point.
Yep.
Let's talk about a situation then. What do you think an advisor... So for an advisor out there that is considering the concept that, okay, scalability is a way for me to take what I'm doing, keep the parts that I enjoy, but just make more money and affect more people's lives. So you're suggesting that is an option.
Yep.
Talk to me, 5 years, what does it look like?
What does it look like? It looks like I think you're going to have where the front office, you're going to have a highly engaged front office, and they're going to be your classic financial planners that the passionate ones there, I suppose. But the back office will be highly scaled out, and it will be using the stack will be more integrated than ever before. And I think self-licensed will be far more prolific than it is today. And I think the quality of advice will be much higher because I think in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to have a whole lot of bedding down. We're going through a rough period, right?
Horrible.
Yeah. And everyone's just a little bit of quiet time now. Just to bed down your processes.
Lovely.
And just to, work on mentoring some of your employees and to get your clients' relationship. And, you got all these good ideas, right? It takes you ages to, find the time to put them in.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be good to have like 18 months of just refining them?
That would be lovely.
And then what we're going to have is you're going to have, this is my opinion, you're going to have a lot of financial planners that do continuous, there's this whole idea about continuous improvement in software. Why don't we do that in advice? Why don't we just do that?
Lovely.
Why don't we do that? And so, and you do first financial planning, the big bang, and then you just constantly refine.
Yes.
And the guys and girls that I've seen get through this whole COVID situation with the least stress in the business are the ones that continually improve the financial plan rather than just send out big ROAs every now and then.
Can you give me an example of what that means to improve the plan?
Constant updating of fact finds. Right, so you've got client portals. They'll sit there and update the fact finds. The fact finds are being changed to the data feeds. And so rather than saying, they contact every quarter or something like that, there'll be like an automated weekly update of just changes of the portfolio, what it might mean. Are you red, green, blue, red, amber, green sort of thing, tolerance levels, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And this gets to what you were, I think, saying on, it might have been LinkedIn the other day, where you were saying that staying invested in the same strategy, at least according to you, think is not good.
I've seen a lot of virtue signaling amongst financial planners.
Okay, what does that mean?
Virtue signaling is when you're appealing to people through emotion rather than logic.
Sure, fair enough.
Which is fine. Which is fine.
Yes, it's a big part of the job.
Yeah, no, it's a big part of the time, but don't lose sight of the logic. Don't get caught up in the emotion and just disregard logic.
So you're saying that buy and hold in general is a bad strategy.
Not buy and hold. I'm seeing a lot of stick to your strategy. Keep on doing what you're doing, which is fine. Yes. But is the strategy still right?
Yes.
And so let's say you have, and this is a make-believe portfolio, so don't get too caught up on my portfolio management skills here, but you're 50-50 in Credit Union Cinemas.
Yeah.
And the other one is you're owning a bit of this custom house building. Yeah, WeWork, that's right. And a few weeks ago, it might have been a really good idea. Right. It was a charming idea. Oh, I'd have a bit of that myself. But next minute, it's not.
Yeah.
And so that might be your long-term SAA, but don't blindly stick to it because it sounds wise and it sounds hard-working, like Protestant working ethic skill, right? And you're puffed up with pride, and you've got your muscle out and your singlet on, you're doing some bricklaying, that sort of stuff. But, no. You need to go on, when the facts underpinning the recommendation change, so must the recommendation.
Okay, so
and I'm not saying churning or just overreact.
Sure. I get it, especially in terms of the concept that you were alluding to just before, which was a weekly update on the investments and where you sit and things like that.
How many Australians do you think get that?
Oh, none.
None. It's not beyond the wit of humanity.
No.
And it's probably quite easy. Why don't we do it?
Well, I can tell you because... I asked, I put a poll up on XY just recently, and it was, what percentage of your value do you think your clients attach to or what's the thing that they pay you for? And investment management was very low, right?
Well, it's because financial planners don't do investment management.
Correct. Yeah, and
used to though.
Yeah, that's right.
Why did that go?
Yeah, commissions were removed from investment products.
CFS first choice.
What do you mean? What happened with CFS?
CFS said, "Geez, financial planners, that's a." So when I started out, it was a long time, probably before you were born. 1988 viewers. It was in Adelaide Terrace in Perth, actually. All the West Australian fans will recognise that one. It was Allied Buck, NSP Buck, best financial planning business in Australia. That one, mainly because of me. But no, I was my first job, actuarial analyst, and I wasn't even an actuary. Joke was on them. But they had, so when a client came to see a financial planner, the planners used to go and talk to the actuary, and the actuary would sit up to this. They would sit into the multi-manager growth portfolio for them, and they were matching growth with value and growth at a reasonable price. It was quite impressive, and so they would have had that in every single practice or in every single AFSL across the country had its own portfolio management team.
Wow.
Yeah, because where would you get it before you? Yeah, someone had it, and so. Sure. And so the genius of first choice is they saw that across the country and said, "No, we'll take that. Thanks very much." And they said, and the value proposition to planners was, why don't you spend more time in front of your clients and we'll do all this, outsource it all to us, the portfolio management administration. That's where it came from. And so there was this huge value transfer in the late 90s where CFS and BT Wrap took the lot. And then financial planners became just engaged, not sales, they became more client focused.
Yes.
And gave that bit of the business to the aforementioned parties.
Right, so they outsourced the value proposition in terms of investments to the platform.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah. All right, now does it make sense? You've got no... So
I think it was inevitable.
Well, what's it... Well, I mean, this is speculation. But, that's... Who gets the MER?
The platform and the investment.
Who got it before?
Well, advisors were still charging it.
Yeah, the advisors got it.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, advice had to evolve out of that.
Well,
technology.
Did it?
Technology being technology, someone's going to do that. So sure, we can look back and say,
will it stay that way forever? You got SMAs, you got it's that future is blurry there.
Yeah,
the future is blurry. Big changes. So 5 years, I'll be keeping an eye on that. This is all speculation.
Yeah. Okay, but it's an interesting concept. You think that there potentially that the value prop could go back from the platform
don't you love it when
the
things
advisor
go like a pendulum?
Things do pendulate.
Pendulate.
Thank you.
I don't know. Let's fact check that one. But it's history repeats and rhymes and all the rest of it. We're stuck in a simulation. I'm sure you realise that. Elon Musk told us that many times. And
well, statistically, sure, it seems more likely than so, but it has no effect on life, as far as I'm concerned.
That we're aware of, anyway. But the closer a civilization gets to be able to program a simulation, the higher it probably is a simulation.
Yes, certainly. But realistically, Pong was only like a couple of decades ago, so we're still a while away.
Well, speak for yourself.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
So your view is...
I have no views.
Okay, very good. So the view decoupled from Julian Plummer...
This is what I'm hearing around town.
is that potentially that there's value prop to be regained by the advisor in the space of the investment where it's previously been lost. And you're suggesting... No, you're suggesting. You've heard others suggest.
Yeah, it's not for me to say.
Right? That one of the reasons why advice has felt like a ship without a rudder is because that core value prop was removed from them and then they haven't been able to replace it.
Now, you're going to get a lot of comments under these when you post this. So
okay.
Financial planners shouldn't be doing investment management. Fair enough. Maybe.
Well, some want to.
Yeah, some want
and some people want to get that advice. And there's nothing wrong. That's great advice.
We should get to fight over who throws the dartboard.
Sure. No, of course not. I mean, as you know, as I know, as all advisors know, no two advisors are the same. And so some advisors want to specialize in that investment. And
maybe they can flip a coin. It's better than as well as the next coin flipper. It being a random mean variable walk.
I've got to say, though, as a complete opposite view, right? There are advisors who have certainly done well by saying, I don't touch investments.
Yep.
However, it's very unscalable. Let's call it that's reality because you're working on everything that's not investment.
Well, product is the most scalable of all the advice strategies.
Yeah. Although, and diving into a little bit of detail here, but basically the FASEA Code 3, there's already talk of whether SMAs are potentially breaking, the conflict entirely. So regardless of who even owns it, because so frequently there's ownership attached to the SMAs.
Yep. I think model portfolios as well. They're not. How do you set up a model portfolio in a business at the moment and scale it out to all your financial planners?
Well, an SMA.
Yeah, but is that taught the financial planning software? Is that living and breathing with the financial planning software? I don't think it is. How do you set me up a new growth conservative portfolio, but use these products and get rid of BHP for me and do it in your financial planning software and make that talk to the product?
Well, you can.
Can you?
It'll take a while, but you can.
But you can't. So you can't. So I think, that's, and I don't think that'd be a difficult thing to do. It just has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's, there's lots of things that could possibly happen there.
It's an interesting concept. I haven't heard a lot of advisors talk in that fashion. Obviously, you got these huge, Barron's came out with their top 100. The majority of those advisors were wholesale advisors. They weren't retail advisors. Yep. So their entire value prop, realistically, is that investment piece, right? And when you mentioned to me before, I've never considered that advisors would be able to wrangle back that value.
The market's constantly at war with each other. And, there'll be pricing, there'll be people repricing everything on a daily basis, trying to figure out how to get the next 10 marks.
So the concept of what you've put forward, or the premise, was essentially what there was two companies that launched in Silicon Valley about 10 years ago. Betterment was one of them.
InvestNet, was it?
Yes. Now, they were around for a long time, and Vanguard started and basically took their entire market share in like a week.
What did they? Right.
And they were doing all this really complicated stuff like tax loss harvesting. We'll sell now.
Optimization.
The whole thing, right? Backing of Silicon Valley had huge names who were all promoting it. Tim Ferriss, yada, yada, yada. Failed, right? It's because, I can tell you what. It's because the emotional connection to money is stronger than what people think. And, we were talking before about rationality or emotional, but people actually connect on that's why it's called personal finance, not corporate finance. Not everyone's a quant, right? Not everyone's a pretend actuary. Right.
No.
Right. So personal finance, the key to personal finance is you take all the rationality you want, mix in 80% emotion, and that's where you end up with a large portion of the population. That's how they see financial advice.
Yeah.
So an investment specific value prop.
Well, the thing about American advisors are all model portfolios.
Yes.
You go to an American advisor and say, give me some TPD and some life. They go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Then what's an estate plan? And so there's no concept of a holistic financial plan in America. Here there is. And we've got something they don't have, a huge part of superannuation. Yeah. And so I remember when the robo-advisors came over here, I kept on saying, mate, and I'd say, you're going on for non-superannuation, they're going for non-super investments. And they go, minimum investment, $10,000 or $15,000. I said, mate, no one's got $15,000 here. If they've got $15,000, they're going to pay off. They can put that and pay off their home loan, or go to Bali. Like, who's got $15,000 cash in that? Nobody. I said, no one's got it. But what we do have is an average balance of $225,000 of superannuation sitting, which we will play around with. So we've got that on our side. And so all that sort of stuff, the first place it should be was within superannuation.
Of course.
And there you will have people who will be far more likely to sit there and do something like this rather than, there's no way I'll give $5,000 cash to a robot. It just wouldn't happen.
No. So,
I'd sit there and talk to him and tell him what a great business idea it was, but deep down I said, no.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, when my mates pull open their app on their phone, whichever superannuation it is, and like shout out to Australian Super, they've got some great app tech these days, right? So my mates pull it up and go, hey, look at the balance. Look what I'm invested in. They say, I'm invested in this, this, and this. Far more interested in that. Yeah. And it's going to be 10 times, 20 times what they've got in their bank account. Yeah. So fully understand. And yet they would still come to me because they got these life decisions to make. And I would say, well, actually, you've arrived at a certain point in time now. You got to go speak to a financial planner. Because the investment by itself is, in my opinion, is not enough to bring people in for a long-term journey.
The investment. What do you mean? What is
just the investment? So making an investment as part of your value.
Yeah, that's right. But you got super sitting there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I figured about all that.
So in regards to the investment, your people around you are suggesting that
people on the street, taxi drivers
are suggesting don't ignore the investment piece. Make it a clear part of your value prop. Do everything else, but make the investments a clear part.
Well, I mean, it's something I would consider and have a look at.
Well, of course.
Yeah. You'd be silly not to. And if I was, if something might change in 5 years, I reckon that might have a bit of some incentives around it. Nothing changed. Nothing will ever stay the same. They'll be back and forth for eternity as we.
Speaking about pendulums, are you staying in financial services for the foreseeable future?
It's the love of my life. I will never go. You poor sods have drawn the short straw.
Now, head of strategy at Midwinter now.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I saw the title changed when the name of the business changed. Midwinter, a Bravura.
Yes.
Company.
Yes.
Now, where did this relationship come from? Because I got to say, companies like Advisor Logic, purchased by Morningstar, you guys purchased by Bravura.
Never heard of them.
Right? But what's interesting about that is you've got Xplan, which is the monolith, right? It's a $2 billion company, by the way. Holla, right? So you got that, and then you got you guys and Advisor Logic, which I guess would be the largest second tier, if you want to call it that, now backed by huge companies, right? We've seen things like, what was that one that just recently went under?
C-Cube. But I think they were resurrected. I think they were, yes.
By?
Primary markets or open markets, something like that.
Right.
Yep.
Interesting. Oh, great news.
Yep. It was. I didn't like seeing them go. That was a shame.
No, that absolutely is a shame. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that they're still going. So, I think the risk that was brought to light with C-Cube was, okay, if the company that I'm dealing with that has all of the data of all of my business.
I can't tell you how happy. People were not asking me that question 6 months ago.
Yeah, and I'd never considered it, even though I'm sure you were probably banging on about it.
I try not to bang on about it, actually.
Until you were purchased.
Well, there were processes in place, but it's not something. Well, there were better conversations to be had. Put it that way.
Certainly, but now it's a very important conversation.
Oh, it would be the first thing I'll talk about. Yes.
Absolutely,
very crucial.
Yeah, no, but it's a very good point.
Yeah, no, it is. I shouldn't be so flippant.
I think Midwinter, Advisor Logic. And Xplan, Iris, happen to be the three safest companies in the market to be handling advisor and client data.
I can only speak for ourselves, but yes.
Okay, you've got companies that are doing really cool stuff that's out there. But now, let's say I'm an advisor, I'm slightly concerned that it's going to go missing, that things are going to fall apart, that C-Cube version 2.0 is going to happen, right? So what's your view, because you've been on both sides of the coin?
Yep.
Let's assume for a moment that you've got clients listening. Talk to me about the security that you now provide because Bravura.
Yep.
And also talk to me about what people can do. Let's say that they're not Midwinter clients. Let's say they're with a smaller provider. What they should be doing to reduce that risk.
Some good questions. Well, actually, not much has changed in terms of security before the takeover.
Yeah.
Because our security was second to none. It still is second to none. And my biggest fear, my biggest nightmare, what caused me the most stress in my life over the last 15 years,
right,
was waking up and one of the business partners saying, "They've got us," and someone hacked the database. You think,
right.
Oh my God, that was just, I wouldn't know, I would go into shock.
Yeah.
And I never wanted that situation to happen to me.
Yes.
And every day. And so the thing about this is you've got to talk about it because it could happen.
Of course.
And it does happen. And it does happen. And it will happen.
Yes.
And so everything in life's got a risk, and you can't get rid of the risk. The risk's there. You got to manage the risk.
Yes.
And so we spent a lot of time, I can't tell you, a lot of time getting that risk managed and going through it again, because I just never want to wake up and have that, I have dreamt about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, like, the first phone call would be, oh my God, I can feel my heart almost stopping. But it's the phone calls to the advisors think, oh my God, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
Right. Just to be heartbreaking. Right.
Yes.
And so I said, and at the board level, we took that very seriously, and we sat down and said, I never want to have that conversation. That I don't want to do it.
Well,
and so
it's the career over.
Yeah, it's a career over, and
Yes.
and their career's over. Probably.
Yes. Yeah.
So not for
me.
The
not
chain,
for me. The chain of things that would
cascading.
go wrong.
I said we need to make that not happen.
Yes.
And so Andrew and James, my business partners, they had their full attention.
Yes.
And so
to the point that you launched a security company,
that's
Camino.
Is
that still up and running?
No, that closed at the take. But that was to get us the experience we needed to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was on the back of that. And then once we finished that, we started doing the Camino stuff. But we need to take the high moral ground and just get that experience we needed for the security.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was all about cloud.
Yes.
Now the thing about cloud, right, is the security. So with a managed hosted system, traditional managed hosted thing, I've done this spiel so many times.
Cut in now.
Yeah. If you've got an old style system, if you had a box, you had to do the security yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And someone AMP doing their own security and someone at Retire Invest and all the rest of it. The idea with the high cloud is we will do the security and you just give us the subscription. So we take it all in house, and we would buy we go and hire the best security people we can. And so we had this full-time security team that did nothing but security, and they were the best of the best. And so it's when we got that team, my heart started to relax a bit, thinking, all right, because they were onto it, and they gave me a whole lot. So
security.
Security. It was security first.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. So security hasn't changed since Bravura. No. However, I would say the risk of you going insolvent is reduced.
It's zero. Well,
it's zero.
Hang on, it is a. I don't know what it is, but it's
it's a lot lower than it is.
Yeah, it's above my pay grade now, but to the point where it's you've got corporate back in there.
Which to me, I think is a really important part. What should advisors do? Let's say that they're using something that doesn't have the backing of a big company.
Yep.
What should they do? Genuinely. What advice would have you given?
What if I was a financial planner and I was using someone else's product?
Yes.
I would be getting data extracts as often as I could.
How do you do that?
Depends
on the software.
Depends on the software.
Sure. So, but email the company and say...
I would not email it. I'd buy a new Jaguar. An XJ 4-door, 12-litre saloon.
Right.
I'd drive right up to their front door.
Yes.
And I wouldn't leave.
Until you had the instructions on how to get
or some sort of assurance that
okay, so data extracts. What is that, and where do I store it?
Well, where do you store it? Some very good questions. It depends what you have in terms of your IT arsenal, but you'd probably put it on a sort of like a OneDrive or something like that. Encrypted.
Right. Yep.
I would ask some questions about security all day long.
Okay.
Things like, where is it stored? And things like how many employees have access to the database? You saw Twitter yesterday. That was an employee breach. So someone did some social media. I mean, that stuff happens all the time. You heard of Kevin Mitnick and all the stuff. He dumpster diving. I'd sit there and just question, when's the last ISO you did? Can I have a look at it? ISO, which is the security. It's a security standard used by...
When was the last ISO?
ISO audit. So once a year...
ISO audit. When was the last ISO audit that was performed?
ISO 9600. Ask them for that. And so I mean, we did this 5 years ago. We were one of the first. We was one of the first companies in our sector or industry to actually have this huge international audit come in and went through, and we passed. And we spent a huge amount of money on that. And we were, do we need to do it? Do we not need to do it? Doesn't matter. We're doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's security first, and that's such a, and it was a lot of money to spend, and no one saw the benefit. That's the thing.
Yeah.
No one
it's
said,
almost like no news is good news, and you don't get any props for
and
no
it's
news.
boring as hell.
Yeah.
And the thing about security, right? It's not an issue until you're the front page of the AFR, and all of a sudden the heads are going to roll.
Yeah.
All the fintechs now. First thing I did with the fintech, I've seen fintechs. I've seen some fintechs, and when you're racing for a release or a sprint,
yes.
And the thing is, you've got all this API stuff now, where people are building their own stuff and connecting. That's APIs are information flying.
Yeah, of course.
Where's that being stored? Is that being transmitted, encrypted, or in plain text? And so you've got everyone having a go themselves. And what sort of processes around that? Where's that being stored? Is it being audited?
Okay. Interesting. So if I'm using a piece of financial planning software that uses Zapier to go into.
Now, Zapier, you got all your information going through. Who's audited that?
No, this is my question.
Yeah,
so
that would be my...
Okay, so what are we doing? Are you suggesting that...
I'm not suggesting anything.
No, okay. Are people around you suggesting...
You go and talk to your mates who is using Zapier and ask him, have you had an external party look at this?
Okay, let's get down to how you do that. How would a financial planner get an audit on the Zapier?
I would... Well, first of all, you wouldn't Zapier, you do the whole office.
Understood.
Yeah, and so you do. So you say you do the physical equipment.
Yes.
You do all the network stuff. Trying to breach into the network.
Yes.
And then you've got which is separate from all your cloud stuff.
Yes.
And so you have a look at that as well. So, I mean, it's an undertaking, but you've got to do it.
How do you? No.
You go and talk to there are penetration security companies. So that's what we're doing at Camino was exactly that.
Okay. Can you suggest some names, shout outs?
I'll get you a list that I can provide.
What about the top of your head?
I can't even remember their names.
Okay. Because you built Camino. Where did that go? Why isn't it around anymore?
I think the emphasis was on the financial planning software.
Of course.
Yeah, and with what we knew was about to come up with the Bravura stuff, we knew that would be taken care of. So.
Understood.
Yeah.
So you just chose to shut that.
Well, we brought all that stuff in house, concentrated on the software,
and
then just
okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a hard business model because you're trying to tell
people to spend money on something things that they get no props for. Right. I fully get that. Yeah. So what are some words that advisors should Google to find people in their local area that can do this?
Security
if I typed in security, I'd end up with secos with smokes in there.
No, you do ISO 9600.
ISO 9600 security test.
There will come a time. So organisations like Midwinter had, if the thing is, if you wanted to work with the big boys like the CPAs, you would need to be ISO certified. End of story. If you're not, forget about it.
Yes.
And so that was one of a pretty big reason for us doing that. Now there will come a time where every financial planner has to do that. And I think in ASIC, ASIC have said, the AFSL. I think the responsibility lies with the AFSL. To have adequate supervision monitoring of what's going on in the AFSL, which is security as well. So the next Royal Commission won't be on advice, it'll be on security.
Well, here's the thing. The last Royal Commission was meant to be on financial services in the banking industry, and it just sniped in on financial planners anyway. I'm convinced that any research just ends up literally into the hands of the least protected stakeholder in the whole value chain, which unfortunately always happens to be financial planners.
I have many opinions on this, none of which of them are
you care to share?
No. No. Look, no. I'm going to bite my tongue.
Okay.
I'm going to look at your face and bite my tongue.
I respect that. You've got the ear of the planners. What do you want to tell them as a sign off?
As a sign off? Oh, there's no sign off. I'll be here for the rest of my life. No, look, I think they've gone through a rough period and they're not going to lose their way. I think they're losing a bit of confidence and it breaks my heart. I just keep on trucking. And everyone's talking about the size of the financial planning market going down.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, it's just concentrated in a little bit smaller amount of people.
That's exactly. No, the number of people wanting advice hasn't gone down.
Correct.
So the supply side, the demand side, if not, probably increased actually because of COVID.
Absolutely.
And so if I was a financial planner, I think, well, the market's increased and the number of competitors have gone down. What does that mean for me? More.
100%.
Yeah. And so this is not a time to go around losing your confidence.
No.
This is time to double down. Well, now's the time to step on the accelerator. In the next 18 months.
I fully agree. Yeah. In 2017, there was 28,000 advisors. In 2019, there's 23,000 advisors. In that same time, superannuation assets increased hundreds of billions of dollars, which has increased demand. Supply has gone down on a per advisor basis. Now, obviously, advisors don't handle 100% of superannuation assets out there. There's different numbers, but let's assume 60%. But on a very rudimentary calculation, the amount of superannuation assets available to be advised by each advisor out there is now $120 million.
Look, if I got any higher than 72% on my financial planning, I know where I'll be. I'll be Googling what an estate plan is, and Get
a will. Yeah. Put a capital on that W.
That's my. I'm very good at capitalisation.
That's how you got 72.
So no, I would be doubling down on advice. I really would be. I really would be.
Yeah,
and that's not. I'm not just saying that for the sake of it.
Yes,
I really would. No, I think, and I look at the practice valuations. I think, wow.
Well, yeah, you've got some big money rolling into town. Have been for a little while now, picking up some. Yep. So obviously, in at least the smart money is bullish in this area.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, reasonably intelligent money.
I'd say smart money. I've seen some of the guys making the calls.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So. Thank you, Julian. As I explained to someone that you were coming on the podcast, and they said it was the poor man's Rogan Elon podcast.
Well, they weren't wrong.
So, mate, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers.
Ciao,